Call the Apopka Community Redevelopment Agency to order. Go ahead, Antoinette, you're up. Okay, approval of the minutes. Any addition, subtraction? Anybody from the public need to? If not, look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by member Drago, second by member Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Come on up, Antoinette. Or do you have any public comment on? Okay.
Antoinette Forbes, Economic Development Director. So the first item on new business is a request from Davis Lodge number 47 in reference to the facade renovation assistance program grant. They had put in a request in September, actually earlier than September, for some facade improvements. And since then, our office has been working with them on their application. Part of the application request initially was for $20,000 that did not include a contribution. Since that time, we've had several discussions with them because their understanding is that they were somehow approved for $20,000 without the contribution. However, there's been no record of that, not in the CRA meeting minutes nor in their file. Their $20,000, the application is included. The $20,000 includes window replacements, door replacements, some exterior wall improvements to the stucco, also exterior painting, canopy over the doors, as well as some installation of exterior lights. According to our existing policy, the max that they are allowed to receive is $10,000. It also requires a contribution because they are a nonprofit. From my conversations with the lodge, they are requesting a waiver of both of those requirements so that they can have the $20,000 without the contribution. Our policy currently does not give any indication of waiver, at least at a staff level, which is why it's being brought before the board. So they are requesting, as I said, the $20,000 for the facade renovation program, and as well as the contribution amount to be waived. I have had put in a request to the lodge several times to notify them of this meeting, but I have not heard from them of whether or not they were going to attend. So at this point, I am requesting from the board direction on how you'd like me to move forward with this application.
I'm sorry. Weren't we, didn't we discuss that we were going to upgrade the application, the grant application?
So what I had discussed with the board at the last meeting was looking at our existing grants or assistance programs and adding more language that gives further criteria. It also allows for there to be an appeal process. Currently, the way our policy is written is a little bit ambiguous and it leaves room for interpretation. I'd like to eliminate that. So that is staff's intention to look at our existing our existing programs, including the facade renovation program, to see how we can tighten it. But in the interim, this application is here. So they have been in since the application has been in since August. I did receive a revised application for $10,000 worth of improvements, which was basically just the replacement of the windows. However, they did not update the application to reflect the $10,000 as well as approving the contribution amount.
So they're asking for 20,000, but the application that we have is only up to 10,000.
Our policy is only up to 10,000. They have submitted two proposals, one for 20,000 and one for 10. The application that they submitted is only for 20.
It if we only have 10,000 that we have, why? I mean, you can't give 20 if the grant is only up to 10.
Right, that would be outside of the existing policy.
would it be better if we kind of held off on this and then updated our grant proposal and then they can resubmit? Because one of the things is how old is this the grant that we have on the file? How old is that? How long has it been there? For $10,000.
Oof, long, long.
That
Because when we
predates me.
discussed, I had said to her, maybe we should increase the grant because I mean, if it's over, I mean, as long as I've been sitting here, if it's over 10 years, $10,000 really doesn't cover too much right in today's world. But if
Right.
we can all agree on raising the grant, then the Davis Lodge can resubmit for the 20,000. But right now, the grant is only up to $10,000.
Correct. So one suggestion could be that you allow me to go back and look at our existing policy for all of our um, assistance programs, with the exception of the rewrap, because that has already been approved, and see how we can tighten up some of the language, and then I can bring that back to the board at this time for review. I can also let the lodge know that that is our intention so that they are aware that there is movement, that we are looking at our existing policies and seeing how we can add better definition. And at that time, once it's approved, they can reapply.
I think that would be best for Davis Lodge because right now, what they're asking for is 20, and if the what we have on the books is only up to 10, they would get disapproved. If we wouldn't give them 20, we would
Right.
only give them 10, and if what they need is 20, it would be best if they can come back and when it's revised.
And in addition to that, the issue also will be they want to waive their 25% contribution, correct? And
That
that's
is
not,
correct.
there's nothing in the policy saying that they can't do it.
There is nothing in the policy that allows a waiver.
Okay, allow the waiver.
Is it 25%? Do they match?
It's 50.
It's how much?
So
Well, I'm
it's
just reading what's on.
correct. So it's 25% unless it is a nonprofit, which then it is 50%.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So it's 50% if it's a nonprofit.
Right.
Because I mean, the whole point of CRA is to boost the values of the CRA. So
Right.
Right.
that's the reason there's the disparity between for-profits and not-for-profits is you're trying to raise the values of the CRA.
Right.
So to be clear, it's 25% for nonprofits?
No,
Or is it
It's 50% for
50%? Okay.
nonprofits.
Nonprofits. Well, can you? I don't know who presented the grant. You know the request for the grant, but it would be in their best interest to wait until we can revise the grant proposal, and then it would allow them to apply for the larger grant.
We can do that if that is the direction of the board.
Any other members want to? Dre?
Yeah, do we know this fiscal year just started? So last fiscal year, how many businesses took advantage of this facade renovation program?
I would say it's less than 10. I can get you the exact number tomorrow. I don't have that on me right now.
So 10 out of the $100,000,
Mm-hmm. There were very few.
and it was capped at 10,000, 25% for profit, 50% nonprofit. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
It's backwards.
Well, if we're going to do it correctly, I think the same approach for this facade program should mimic what we did for the residential facade program. That is, we had an updated application, we had an agreement, we had some other documentation, and I think in the past, as I looked at it, there was too much money given to air conditioners, and that really doesn't apply or should not apply to this type of a grant program. It should be improving the architectural appearance of the building, landscaping, new signage, which we can be able to control the size of the sign. So I think that process should be first. She could probably use some of the documentation from the residential program with the help of the attorney, and she could probably take residential out, put commercial. I think the list of what's not eligible and what's eligible is going to be crucial. And then if that's brought back to us within a certain time frame, we can still use the 100,000. Now, next budget cycle, we can look at increasing that budget amount because there is a lot of buildings in downtown that needs improvement. So I have no issue with spending the money appropriately, as the chair said, to improve the property values and to improve curb appeal. That would be my recommendation.
Any other members want to speak to this one? Any questions? And then if not, we'll ask for public comment. Anybody from the public want to speak on it?
Leroy Bell, Apopka. I noticed that in the request, it laid out a bunch of items like the doors, the windows, the paint, and all this. And I do know Davis Lodge, I was raised up in it, and I would love to see it upkept. But then at the same time, you have to be fair to the other part of the city also. And I'm one that up here always talking about doing something on that side, but it has to be done fairly. You're talking about paint, asking for money to paint a building that you, the chair, a couple of months back, sat there and you bragged about how long you and Reverend Smith was out there painting, beautifying the building. So why would you put more money up on a painted building like we had at the house up there on 8th Street that you end up tearing down, rebuilding? I know that Davis Lodge just put a new roof on by Brother Pollard. If we're going to do something for the lodge, I have been here over a year and a half. Mr. Drago, Commissioner Nestor, and Sylvester can attest to that I had been begging to do something over there, but it always fell on deaf ears. But then all of a sudden, if the thing said, I'm along with Mr. Drago, if it said $10,000, let it be $10,000. If you're trying to change something in the ninth hour, is it because of an election coming up? If that's what it is, it should have been done when you did Orange Lodge downtown. That's how long that I've been pushing for Davis when I was the wishful master. But it seems to be every time it come up close to an election, I remember you ran 12 beautiful black women out of this chamber that wanted to work, partner with you over there. You ran them out, didn't have time for them. Maybe I should get them to come back up here because of an election. Yes, let's do something for Davis Lodge, but let's don't let, and when they come, when Davis Lodge come, let them come correct. Let them come with the proper paperwork. You say they're a nonprofit? Have them to bring the paperwork.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing, look for some direction.
Well, I think it makes sense to if we are wanting to do that as a board, update the program to reflect the changing times and have them resubmit a fully perfected application from there.
Okay, is that a
That's
motion?
what I had
Yes.
suggested.
Motion by
I'll second
member
that.
Nesta, second by member Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, new incentive programs.
So at the last CRA meeting, we talked about there being new programs.
Can you speak just a little louder?
Sorry about that. I'll use my mom voice. How about that? So at the last CRA meeting, we talked about establishing some new CRA programs, particularly since some of our previous programs were no longer eligible under Florida Statute 163. It was the building permit refund program, the impact fee assistance program both for building and residential. And so that leaves some line items on our budget. And I said I would come back with some. So these programs that I have brought are conceptual. They have not yet had the opportunity to have a thorough legal review, but I wanted to get the appetite of the board first to make sure that you were in agreement with the direction I'm trying to go before we begin to codify them and then create applications to go with them and start advertising. So the programs are the demolition grant. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, where it would be reimbursement for structures that are incompatible with the existing or anticipated redevelopment. These are structures that may not meet safety requirements, or they are dilapidated, they are abandoned, they are already on the radar of code compliance, so that I would work with them as well within the CRA, and we would allow the CRA to help with the demolition of that site, including any clearing of debris, as well as doing side or providing grass or landscaping just to clear out the site. The design engineering services grant is for architectural consultations for the business when it's its early pre-development stage, which allows the CRA and city to help navigate with the proposed aesthetic of the property. The window wrapping grant, which would help with some of our vacant storefronts to improve the appearance while it is waiting for the next tenant. And then the special project grant, which would help incentivize commercial projects that hopefully would increase the tax base or create employment opportunities or attract some sort of unmet, unfulfilled need within the CRA. So under the demolition grant, as I mentioned, it would support future development, and also it would hopefully eliminate blight issues. We are proposing, and by the way, at the time that the slides were created was before I received some additional comments, and I say that because the $20,000 proposed budget that is now here, reference has been increased to reflect, I'm sorry, it remains at the 20,000, and that would come from the building permit refund program. The design engineering services
The
grant.
packet has that at 15,000.
Your packet has 15.
Mm-hmm.
That is an error on my part. It needs to be corrected.
And that's for the demolition.
The
side.
demolition,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, that one has that at 15.
Yes.
So it's going to be 25.
It would be 20.
No,
It'll be 20. Okay.
It would be 20. And again, these are conceptual. So if the board decides on any of these that they feel that you'd like to increase the amount, then we can do that as well. It will still have to come back before the board to change the budget so that's reflective of the programs. Under design engineering, we would hopefully encourage thoughtful, well-coordinated development within the CRA's vision, as well as early collaboration between the applicant and design professionals. We would utilize the city's existing continuing services contract with our design and engineering consultants to help facilitate that process. And for that one, we have 30,000, which would be from the building impact fee, as well as the residential impact fee programs, and then 20,000 from contingency.
so is that 50? Because I wrote down when we were at the agenda review, I had it as 50.
It is 50.
50.
That's a
So
total
it's
of
30
50.
and 20.
That's right.
Okay.
Is there, on that item, is there a way to, because we've already have people that are under contract, should we maybe have them use our design
That is the
Or-
intention, to use
Okay.
our continuing service contracts
Okay.
with those design
Great.
companies.
Okay.
hmm
Thank you.
So that's very similar to following, as Board Member Drago mentioned, about mirroring the REWRAP program, how we have continuing service contracts with some of our general contractors to do that work. Very similar here with the design process. For the window wrapping, again, this is where we would utilize CRA funds in order to provide professional graphic installations for vacant or underutilized storefronts. The proposed budget for that is $5,000. That line item is from the improvements other than under the budget, and it's titled Facade Renovation Program. There's a $5,000 marker for that. So that is where that funding would come from. And then the special project grant, this is specifically for commercial projects. And so I want to make note how the first bullet talks about residential and mixed use. No, this is strictly commercial. Again, at the time that we were making adjustments, we did not have a chance to update the slides, but this is strictly for commercial. This is for a project that offers either employment opportunities, increase the tax base, or meet some unmet need. Our intention is this is on a case by case basis. So any project would have to come before the board. It would be pre-vetted by staff, but they then need to come before the board with some sort of prospectus, financials. It needs to understand who the major players are in the organization and what their experience is, because the budget for this one is approximately $205,000, which we're reallocating the funding from the Pocket Park on 8th and Highlands, as well as taking the $100,000 from contingency. So due to that large amount, any proposed project would come before the CRA board first before we allocated those funds. Excuse me, before we awarded those funds. So those are the incentive programs in concept. Again, I just want to make sure that the board understands the direction of which I'm trying to go. We still need to work with our city attorney to make sure that we are in compliance and to make sure that it mirrors as close as possible the way we did the REWRAP program. So the recommended motion is consideration of the proposed incentives and direction for staff to move forward with refining and developing the incentives, including guidelines, implementation details, and budget reallocations, of which we would come back to the board at the following meeting for the budget reallocations. Excuse me.
Any questions for internet?
So the reroute program was $5,000 in that total was for the reroute program.
No, so I'm glad you caught that. So there is a line item in our budget called improvements other than, and it lists several micro projects.
Okay.
And there is the facade renovation. There's a line item there for just 5,000, but the program that we did in its entirety, that one is 900,000.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that was a placeholder.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I guess I'm at a little disadvantage because I've finally figured out where the proper agenda was on the city's website. What I didn't see in the agenda was any documentation relative to the demolition program and to that special projects program. I know member Nestor has it, I don't. So without reading it, I don't think I can comment on it. But on the window wrapping, I just scanned it. So the first issue I would have would be the size of the window wrapping relative to the size of the window. I know the police don't want covering on the windows for security reasons. They want to be able to go by, walk by, look in the window, see if somebody's in there. So what size wrap did you have in mind relative to the size of the window?
So we have not gotten down to those specifications yet because again, it was in concept. So part of our due diligence, we would work with PD so that they can implement crime prevention through environmental design principles to make sure that it includes that there is proper visibility in besides just having the window wrapping.
Okay, so the other issue is I'm not a fan of putting a window wrap in there to either sell or lease a building. I think that should be the owner's responsibility or in concert with the real estate person. The other one, you talk about community branding. I don't know what that community branding is or what it looks like. You talk about historic preservation standards. Where are they? Do we have them? Because I commented in the past about preserving the buildings that are on the National Register from demolition.
I think that's two separate things we're discussing, though. Your
I-
point is well taken, but those are two separate issues we're discussing.
Well, she put in there window wraps that conflict with historic preservation standards. So where's the standards relative to the conflict? And there's probably, I think there's one or two commercial buildings that are on the historic register. So that's apropos. The other one was talked about the program must remain in place for a minimum period. What's the minimum period? And it also talks about that if a tenant were to occupy the building and they have to take down the wrap, does the city get reimbursed for the wrap cost?
Would you like me to?
And also in it, it says that the city has a list of contractors specializing in wraps. Do we have that list?
We do. Would you like me to answer your questions? Because you asked several. Okay, so let's start with the, in terms of the marketing. So CRA, as I'm sure that you're aware, we cannot market using CRA funds, but we can do the window wrapping. So we'd have to be careful on what we can put within on the window itself. So it could not necessarily be coming soon, this tenant, for example, but we could potentially do some sort of graphic that looks like there are people or activity happening. But again, that's part of our due diligence of working with the city attorney. In reference to historic preservation, we would again do our due diligence and work with our planning department to make sure that we are compatible with our current code says. You also asked in terms of reimbursement. So for reimbursement, we have not put that in the policy yet because this was conceptual and I would seek board direction from you. So if you're asking if you would like there to be a clause in there so that we can add a clawback provision, then we can do that. And I can't remember your fourth question. I'm sorry.
Minimum period in which the wrap needs to be replaced.
So, in my opinion, I don't think there should be a minimum amount because if there is a vacant storefront, but they have now found a tenant, I don't think we should require them to continue the wrap. That would take away from the business they're actually trying to occupy the space.
Well, it says in your document here, window wraps funded under this program must remain in place for a minimum period. So the question is, what's the minimum period that has to stay in place?
Right. So we can have a minimum period that's placed as long as it's vacant. So I can massage that language.
And the last one is, you said that we do have a list of approved contractors that do window wraps.
Yes, we do have vendors that we use that do graphic design and what is it called?
It would have been.
They do forms of graphic design that we can use. The same vendors that do like our business cards, for example, we can also ask them to do window wrapping.
All right, so the other thing needs to be worked out with the police chief is the size of the wrap relative to the size of the window. I think we talked about that. Oh, thank you. Well, I talk loud enough so everybody hear me.
Everyone online needs to hear you, though, too.
Well, it would have been helpful, I think, if the memo would have included some pictures of what these wraps look like. I mean, it's not for me, it's for the public.
Right. Noted. So when we bring it back to you, when it's been properly vetted, we can make sure that there's some examples in there.
So this window wrap would also include any building that's nonprofit.
We have not decided yet, but if you'd like that to be part of the language, if that is the board direction. Are you suggesting that there would be?
I mean, there could be a nonprofit that owns a building and leases it. Could be a nonprofit that owns a building that leases it. So they would be entitled to the WRAP even though they're nonprofit. I'm just asking the question.
So unless there needs to be direction from the board that specifies that. And I say that because the way our current policy reads, for example, for the facade renovation assistance program, it allows nonprofits to participate in that program. So are we now going to extend the same courtesy for the window wrapping? We need to be consistent across the board. So if we are now saying that we do not want to include nonprofits as part of that because they are a non-contributing member to the tax base of which CRAs are funded through, that is an option if that is the direction.
Well, I don't think we can hang our hat specifically on the revenue stream being taxable. Nonprofits still have to pay utility fees, sales tax, all the other fees that the city collects. So there's some advantage to the city from a revenue perspective to, I guess, look at the nonprofits maybe in a different light than what we typically look at them. Now, I guess that's something for you and the attorney to discuss as to the legalities of it. But just from a policy standpoint, if they're members of the community, they contribute to the community in some form or another, then I think they should be treated somewhat equally.
Any other questions?
I just have a couple comments, and we discussed this yesterday as well. So just kind of bring it to the board as well. With the window wrapping, what I'd like to see, or I think that would be beneficial in probably a lot of our programs, is to have some type of design standards or something along that line, to where they're all consistent. To where when you're in the CRA, you know you're there in a positive way. That you know, and you can see that there's certain branding or insignia or something that indicates this is a CRA area, and it uplifts and it creates that marketing and branding. I think that's valuable to do. I don't have that idea of what that looks like, but and again, and it's what I said with in our conversation yesterday as well. You tell me if that's you're the expert in this, so if that's something you're like, no, that's not going to work, or that doesn't look good, or that wouldn't function correctly. Obviously, no problem at all. I just think that would be helpful to really help brand our downtown in a different way in our CRA area. And then most of this is specific to it's for buildings or properties that are already vacant. So it's really to make them look not vacant. It's to make them look not run down effectively.
Right.
So it's to make that look light and bright and still look like a used space, even though it's not, but still market in some capacity effectively.
Correct.
Okay.
It's very similar to when you drive down the highway and you see the billboards that says you could live here. And so now all of a sudden you start, kind of visualizing what that space would look like.
Yes. Okay. And I like that. I think this is a good program, and it'd be interesting to see, again, if we can create a consistency of the branding of, again, kind of like an HOA where you got color swatched A, B, C, D, E, and everyone kind of picked, but they're all similar. I think that would just help with downtown branding, really kind of start great cohesion downtown, and I think that'll add to value creation. So I think it's a great program. On the demolition assistance program side, again, we discussed this yesterday, is I think that there should be a tie-in or some type of requirement. I don't know what this would look like or even if it's legal, but to demolish a property, there should be a timeline to reinvest and put a new property there, whatever that may be. So it's not just knocking down properties to where we have just vacant lots, which I understand that may benefit the community overall. But it actually, it would technically bring down our taxable value because it'd be vacant lot versus a improved property. So if there was some type of tie-in of within 1 year, there needs to be permits pulled or something to put either a new residential or commercial property on that site. Not tying their hands by any means, but just creating a timeline so that's not just a vacant lot for vacant lot's sake. That was something that came up for that one. The design and engineering side, it was $50,000 total. We're looking at that one, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because it was broken up into where it was getting pulled from. So that one, they would have to show, I guess, how would we walk through that process of, is it reimbursement or we're fronting those funds?
So I would like to make it as close to rewrap as possible, where the agreement would be between the CRA, the applicant, and the consultant in this case, so that everyone is on the same page, not just in terms of the scope of work, but also in terms of payment as well.
Okay. Because it just trying to figure out how that would, the pragmatism of that, how would we be able to play with that. So I like that. Thank you for coming up with these. I think it's very very helpful, and potentially, should this get approved and come back, if you can show us any examples of some of these that have worked successful in other areas, I think that would be helpful as well. I know that you had a really good program down in the Kissimmee area as well, so anything that you've done there, any pictures or examples, I think would just be helpful to be able to show what we're doing. Thank you for your time on this.
Thank you.
Member Smith?
Yes. Now I've seen window wraps where you can actually see through the wrap. You can still see the interior of the building, and so I think if we use that design, that will work just fine. My only other question is, I noticed it says window wraps may include leasing opportunity information, and I'm not sure if we want to provide window wrapping and then advertise for that space for profit.
Yes. So our city attorney has not had the opportunity to fully review the programs yet, but I am certain that's something that he's probably going to advise against.
Okay. All right. Good.
Member?
No,
Either member? Okay.
No, they've
All right.
covered most
Mr.
of it.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Again, without reading the demolition memo, one thing that I think you need to check with the city attorney is if any structure that's on the National Historic Register can be exempt from using the demolition grant. Because if you don't, I'm afraid they'll be demoed pretty easily, as I've been told. Now, as far as the design engineering is concerned, I guess in concept, it's probably good to look at, but in reality, the concern I would have would be that I don't think the CRA has a good set of design standards to protect the property values of the businesses and the residents. And I'll give you an example, well, two examples. I was told, and it was not refuted, that in the CRA code, metal buildings are not allowed. Now, if that's still accurate, there's a 2-story metal garage building on Highland between 2nd and 3rd. It encroaches into setbacks, and there's drainage runoffs into other properties. The first question is, how did that get permitted, if it did get permitted? And it surely didn't meet any type of design standards. Number one. Number two, there was a new insurance office building built on behind CVS. White with green. Looks industrial looking. All the buildings around there are colonial. All of them are colonial type houses. The architecture is colonial. So the question becomes is, was there a design standard in place? If there was, how did that building get built and permitted? So unless you have a good set of design standards in place, this paying $50,000 to an architect and an engineer to come up with what they think is the right design and not compatible with the CRA to protect property values is a waste of time and money. So the standards have got to be in place first before we look at paying somebody 50 grand to design something that's not compatible or protect property values in a CRA.
And I just was, we kind of talked about that in the meeting. And that's something that she actually is already going looking to do. Because that was something that I actually brought up, was that a design standard that's cohesive in the area. And I think she's in the process of actually putting it together. We talked
Absolutely.
about it already.
Yes. That is really important that that the CRA has a certain distinctive character or branding, so that when you are in it, you understand that you have now reached a destination. I think it's called placemaking. And at this point, that is something our CRA needs help with. So all of our programs are a way for us to try to help navigate in such a way that when new development as it comes, we have the opportunity to help bring it into better continuity in terms of aesthetics.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? Okay. Not look for a motion to, I guess, have staff bring it back
Mm-hmm.
fully baked.
That's right.
Looking for a motion.
So move.
Got a motion by member Smith,
Second.
second by member Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, CRA master plan update.
So this is a fairly quick update. So prior to my coming on to Apopka, I believe staff had mentioned that there was an intention to do a master plan update because the last CRA master plan was 2017. That is still our intention. However, I would like to wait until we get our extension approval from the county before we start that master plan. So as you know, there was a 3-year agreement for the CRA. We are now in the year 3. We have provided the annual report to them mid-December of last year. And so we will start the conversations with them in around, I'd say September or so, for that approval for the extension. And then we will enter into the master plan process. So I just wanted to inform the board so that you were aware.
So we don't need, that's not an actionable item. Then.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. And then the update on the residential renovation assistance program.
So just to let you know where we are with this program, because this was by far your largest line item in your budget. So to date, we had 192 inquiries. That is by email, walk-in, call, text, every which way. That doesn't necessarily mean they were all eligible. That just means that they had inquired. In addition to inquiring whether or not they were eligible, they did receive information on housing resources that are available both through the county and through nonprofit resource providers. There were 24 applications that were denied because they did not meet eligibility requirements for whatever reason. 2 were what I called waitlisted. It simply meant that they provided all of the information needed in the application, but timing wise, unfortunately, they just were not able. I was not able to process them before we ran out of funding. There were 33 homes that were approved for that program. The improvements included driveway repairs, window and door replacements, exterior painting, fencing, landscaping. There were 15 roof replacements, and 5 ADA projects were part of that 33 homes. To date, there's been close to the 900,000. And then there were homeowners that actually contributed as part of the program because their request exceeded the $30,000 match. So that's $6,298.87 are residents that are paying over and above the $30,000. And I mentioned about the 5 homes that have been completed. The other homes, they are in the queue to be completed. A lot of them are using most of our grantees are using the city approved general contractors. So they are going down the list and they are working on them as we speak.
Any questions for
I have a
Antoinette on that?
question about the 2 applicants that were placed on the wait list. Do you know what that funding amount was that we needed for those 2 applicants?
Well, if they do the max amount, that would put them at
They
60,000.
requested the max amount, those 2?
Everyone requests the
Oh.
max amount. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
The $50,000 that was allocated for your outsourcing of the administration, has that been used?
It has not.
Okay. So according to member Anderson, you have 2 applications that are on the waiting list to be funded. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So,
And I'm sorry, just to interrupt you, I want to be very clear. I did not advise them that they were on a wait list. I only received the applications and let them know the program had closed. So therefore, there's no expectation as though they will receive funding. I have just internally put them on a wait list in case there is additional funding.
okay. So let's talk about the additional funding. If the $50,000 is available, and my understanding is that the trustee is going to come back with some budget amendments relative to all these incentive programs. That 50,000, and I'm sure she can find 10 additional dollars, $10,000 more, could be added to the residential renovation program to fund those 2 outstanding applications. And then that would complete, at least this fiscal year, that program.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
It's a great plan. That's what I was thinking.
See what we can do.
Believe I have direction. Okay.
And I just had one comment on this too, and it's something we discussed as well yesterday. But if we can, as we start moving forward and kind of build out, and this is not a tomorrow project by any means or request, but just each dollar that we're investing in this or that we're investing other people's money into these homes and properties, we should be able to tie an ROI back to it. So for every dollar of windows we put in, we're usually getting $1.10 out. Something along those lines. I think it's going to be important and valuable as we have conversations to show, hey, here's exactly what we're getting out of this. We're putting in X amount, 900,000, but we're getting $1.8 million worth of taxable value increase back from it, or whatever it may be, whatever that number is. Because again, the whole goal is to increase property values here, taxable values. So I think that'll be valuable as we just navigate to make sure that we're staying on track with what we're improving and things of that nature. And then we can speak very specifically to homeowners and residents that says, hey, you know, windows seem to be getting X amount, and that's 10% more than what maybe a lawn is doing. That's not accurate, but as an example. So I just think backing into some rough numbers would be helpful for conversation's sake with residents and then also with Orange County as well to show, hey, here's how we're actually improving it through our data, not anybody else's. We can show it kind of firsthand.
I agree. I think it will definitely help in our conversations for the extension if we're able to show a quantifiable return on investment.
Absolutely.
And are we getting pictures or videos of these 33 or 35 homes that?
We are. So part of the payment process, they do have to provide pictures both before and after. I have personally driven by as well and taken pictures. I try to tell people when I come so they don't see a car driving by and wonder what's going on. And then as another step, before payment is issued, we also have our building department go out and do an inspection on top of the inspection they did, for example, the roof. Even if they got painting or landscaping done, we have someone from the building department go out and inspect that as well.
All right. And so are these going to end up on our website or someplace for public to see?
Yes, so we've started in our CRA newsletter, putting up some of the pictures as they become available.
All right.
Some folks are camera shy. So as they become available, we have been putting them up.
All right. Thanks.
Any other comments? I just want to thank Internet. She was a department of one, and she did all these applications. I mean, she was running down to get everybody checked off on it. And so I really appreciate she now has some help. So now that the programs, we've run out of money. That's but anyway, wonderful job, because I know you're running like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to get everybody taken care of, and it was an amazing job what you did basically by yourself. So we appreciate it, and now we got some help to get you to the next level. So thank you for what you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I also want to make sure I say that this program, which was pretty much created before I got here, was extremely innovative. I work with a lot of CRAs, and it's not the fact that it was a facade program, but the way you've removed a lot of the barriers for residents to get this help is what made it so successful.
All right.
Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you. All right. We'll be back in 10 minutes.